So notice how the lever arm right here, I'm using this straw so you guys can see it. Notice this is the lever arm, it's sitting on top of the rocker. And if you pay close attention, the spring is in the V groove. It's supposed to be that way because that's what's holding pressure. So every time the engine, every time you rotate the engine, you're pushing up and down. Notice how that stays there. So it'll repeat over and over again. So let's take out this part right here, the rocker arm, and see what happens when I rotate the engine. The lever arm right here is going to slide down and it's not going to be in the spring anymore. So I'm just going to remove this. Now that we removed the rocker arm right here, we push it to the side, assuming you're doing the valve stem seals now, and you remove that. So next step would be is to go ahead and compress the spring. In this case, right now, is that basically, as you see, is once we go ahead and we rotate the engine, watch what happens to the spring. Pay close attention to the spring right here, and also I want you to see this part. Let's see if we can catch them both together. Yep, pay attention to this as well. You know, if you want to catch exactly what I'm saying, go ahead and rewind the video. First watch this, and then you go back and look at this, what happens. So right now let's focus on the V-spring right here. So with the rocker arm off, right here, we're going to rotate the engine. See what happens now. There's nothing that's going to be able to hold the pressure compress, and boom. So now pay attention to this. You see how low this is? It fell down, and now if you look at it, you'll see the spring is not in the V groove. When this occurs, a lot of people, freak out B is not many people realize that this happens, and they put the engine together, then they get misfires, because all it's gonna do is gonna constantly just sit there, and you're gonna have this problem right here. So also what you can have is you can have a lot of problems with installing the rock arm as well. No matter how much you're compressing the spring, is now you're dealing with, you cannot fit this in there. Notice how loose it is. See? This whole thing is held up by the rocker arm, by this part right here, and by the spring. This has got nothing. It's got no clips or anything of that nature. It just literally rides on this cam right here, and all it does is just this. That's all it does. Goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So in this case, what you want to do is, with one finger, obviously it's easier to set the number, with one finger you're pushing up on it, and with the other hand you're grabbing with the pliers and you're trying to push the spring away from it. At the same time, you're going to try to guide the spring back in the V groove. So let's just, for this video purpose sake, go like this. Now, while I got the spring, I'm going to try to go up and put it in its groove. One hand, I'm pushing on the lever arm so it goes up. And with the other hand, I'm trying to guide the spring to go back in the groove. So if now it's on. Now let's say you're having problems doing this. Then what you should do is you should rotate the engine so that the lopes maybe line up a little better. You know, so they're away from it. Or Yeah, so they're facing up higher, like this, for example. See, my lobes are staying straight up. Try it that way, and now you should be able to compress the spring. And once you got the spring compressed, you should be able to put your lever arm back on it, assuming that the spring was compressed, right? So that's that. Now I'm gonna rotate this engine over so you guys have a better view of what I'm talking about, and hopefully you guys have a better understanding. So now, just to show you guys on how this works from underneath it. So this is basically what we're looking at. These springs right here, they're pretty powerful. And in order to get to them, in order to set them up basically, is again, you pull them out away, like this, you pull them away, and they slide right out. They just come right out. There is no special trick to them really, other than you pull the spring back, and with one hand you're pushing this back in the groove, and with the other hand you're got your pliers or whatever you want to use, and you lifting this up. So let's say we're putting this back together. So I'm gonna raise this up, grab this part right here, I'm gonna put it in place, and it's on like this. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this spring, and I'm gonna show you guys without the spring how they should be seated. So the spring is off. And the only way to get the spring off is you have to pull the cams up, obviously. But we're not gonna do that. So now, just gonna grab one of these. So these, they got this groove right here. They got this groove right here, and these have been painted sadly, but there we go. So if you look at it, these sit literally just like this. They're right on this groove. So this side and this side have to be perfectly lined up in this groove right here on the outside and the inside. Let me grab this. So this part right here and this part right here, this part right here and this part right here rides on one side and the other side. So basically this will sit just like this. Notice it? It just goes in like this. So when this does rotate, it only goes in for so long. Notice it? Let's get the other one off too. So now that this doesn't have much tension, you can see. So notice that this is not a full circle where the teeth are. Notice that this is not where the a full circle where the teeth are. It's got a dead end right here. It's got a dead end right here. That's a stopper to how far the engine goes, and then she'll come back. And then she'll go. That's all she does. You will not be able to rotate this completely, no matter how hard you try. Listen to it. Notice that this part right here, it's got a cut, it's got a stopper. So does this side over here. It's got also the same stopper. So those will hit the part. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna separate the shaft so we can see where the lever arm sits from the actual original shaft. We're just gonna remove these springs quickly here. So guys, this is the last one I gotta remove. And we should be able to get to separate the brackets to see the bearings for that servo seal. Now these bolts are pretty long. The ones that you remove from the springs, they're pretty long, and the reason why they're long is because they go through and actually attach. So right here, they'll go through here and actually attach to the main bracket as well. So to the main cam. So when we remove this, we got the first one out. We got the second one out. We got the third one out. So we can get the last one out. There we go. So now let's remove this as well. So now we're left off with just this. Now I want you guys to see this. You cannot rotate it all the way, even if you try to. It's not possible. So once you do this, now we're going to remove the small cam, separate them, and here's a part. It's got bearings in them, so you got to be very careful. Well, you shouldn't have to do this. This is just out of curiosity that we're doing it. The only reason why you should have to do this is if you damage the teeth to this part right here where the servo writes. So should be letting loose, let loose. There goes the caps. Here's the second cap. Those are for the roller bearings. 3 and 4. At this point, I would assume it should let us be able to come out. Yep. So here we go. This is basically what it is. So this is the reason why it's not a full turn. It never turns completely. It only turns almost like 90 one way, 90 the other way, so to say. Does not do a full 360. Here are the bearings as well. So guys, try not to damage these parts. Try not to damage these parts. And pretty much this is it. I was just literally trying to show you guys the experimental of this. So now that we have this out, we'll maybe be able to how these things write. Let's see. This just sits on top of it. That's it. It just sits on there. There's nothing more, nothing less. Right here. See? And guys, one more thing. Look at how small the hole is. It's pretty darn small. So don't waste your time with a thicker viscosity oil, because you'll never know what else you're really damaging. The thicker the oil, the longer it takes to heat up, the longer it takes to break up, the longer it takes to get through all the proper spots. So this is it. This is only on the intake. thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. I hope now your curiosity what's inside this bracket is no longer needed, because now you understand it, and hopefully now it makes a little more sense. This was nothing. It was nothing but a small little experimental, in case people were wondering how to get to it and how it all really functions and works, just to see it. Let somebody else do it versus themselves. So basically we just did that. I hope that curiosity is put to rest, at least somewhat, that you might have had. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.